Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Hinkst, incremental CMO consultant, primarily for the manufacturing and life sciences industries from Chromatic Marketing Services. Today, I'm going to show you how to succeed and conquer live webinars. A couple of things is because our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter as the years go by, this is down and dirty 30 minutes. One of the things that I'm always recommending to clients moving forward is keep these webinars as close to 30 minutes as humanly possible because there's so many distractions out there, right? Whether you're looking at your phone right now or you're thinking about the next project or assignment you have to execute, right? One of the ways that you want to keep or captivate someone's attention is reduce the length of the webinar so that you're providing meaningful content in a better, quicker, faster manner. All right, so what's the quick agenda here, right? So I'm going to show you how to maximize and how to effectively curate and execute live webinars. I'm going to show you some important tools for success. I'm going to show you what the 4 pillars process is. I'm also going to show you how to generate, I'll call it more money. What are the key takeaways from today's webinar? An offer I have for you. And then what are your next steps after you review and you listen in on the content today? So the first thing I'm going to do, and this is important, is when you're interacting and you're engaging with your audience, whether it's a prospect, an opportunity, or maybe it's a new lead, right? One of the things that you want to do is you want to collect as much important information as you can, right? Ideally, what you're trying to do is collect pain points and better understand the pain that they're having so that after the webinar, you can have very constructive and meaningful conversations based on the information you're collecting behind the scenes. One of the ways to do that is through live polls. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to execute the first live poll. And I'm going to give you a few moments to let me launch it so it pops up on the screen. So the first question is, how often do you use webinars to generate qualified leads? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Very rarely are you using webinars to better qualify leads and opportunities for yourself? And then do you just never use webinars today to help grow and generate more business for your company? So I'll go ahead and give you another moment or so to enter in your answers. But again, the purpose of why we're doing this is what you want to do is when you're having these webinars, you want to make sure you're collecting the right information from them. So that, and I'll show you a little bit later on, is so that you're then having very specific and dialed in conversations based on the feedback that they're giving you. All right, so monthly, right? So again, this is just another way for you to collect the right information based on what your audience is currently engaged with as it relates to live webinars. So thank you for that. So how do you effectively curate and execute live webinars? And I think this quote is apropos today, and it's from Benjamin Franklin. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So what you always want to do, especially with live webinars, because it's a ton of work on the front end and on the back end. So marketers, you're just as responsible as sales. Sales, you're just as responsible as the marketing team, right? It is a cohesive unit when you're executing live webinars like this. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to plan these things out at least a month in advance. In a perfect world, you're planning these things out 2 months in advance, because again, if you're trying to get speakers involved, industry experts, right? Obviously, they need a lot of time to make sure that their schedules align with the day and time that you're trying to execute the webinar. The other important piece to this as you're planning it out is confirming who is your target audience, right? Who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to attract to the webinar that you're trying to create, right? Whether it's an engineering manager, whether it's a quality manager, is it at the director level? Is it at the end user level, right? So you want to make sure that you're really dialed in with who are you specifically targeting for that specific webinar, right? Job titles, company size, personas, etc. The other key component to this is, what is your flow and who do you want to speak? I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, it would be a testimonial from a customer, right? You want them to talk about your value and your technology on behalf of you, right? In a very high level way, right? Where they're gloating about your product or your solution, right? That's one way. Another way is bringing in third-party industry experts. You want to try to make it more Switzerland, where they're talking more about problems and solutions that align with your core competencies within your company, right? And then the other important key piece to this is SMART goals, making sure that you're creating SMART goals that will tell you, okay, based on the webinar that we're creating, how many registrants are you expecting? How many attendees are you expecting from that registration list? How many qualified leads are you expecting from the webinar? How many opportunities are you expecting to convert from those qualified leads? And then most importantly, right, this is why we do what we do, is from a company standpoint, how much revenue are you expecting to bring in based on this live webinar that you're executing? So what are some tools for success? A couple of things, right? So you see me on webcam. I highly, 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 I'm going to say it 3 times, recommend that when you're speaking, you're on webcam. I know bandwidth can be an issue, but again, in this virtual world that we're living in now, the only way to really personalize this and make it as warm and fuzzy as humanly possible is put yourself on camera. I'm an introvert at heart, so it's easier said than done, but the more that I do this and the more that I've done it, the more comfortable I am talking through the lens, talking through the camera to you as the audience, right? So practice does really make perfect. Live polls, I just executed one of them, right? That's just another way to, again, attain or retain the right information from your audience so you can collect the right information to have meaningful conversations after the fact. Handouts is another important integral aspect. And one of the things I recommend with that, so you'll see in your GoToWebinar control panel, so the webinar application we're using today is called GoToWebinar. One of the things you'll notice is there's a handout section in that control panel that you see. And what I recommend is not necessarily like how great I am as a company or how great, how successful I am. What I recommend is providing tips and tricks. Maybe it's from a third-party company. Maybe it's from a reputable organization like a Gartner, as an example, right? So what I've done here is I've given you 2 handouts. I've given you the 7 best practices on how to execute a live webinar that I'm showing you today through GoToWebinar. And then I also gave you an interesting report from Social Media Examiner. And what they did is they interviewed, I think it was 4,500 marketers about the past, present, and future of digital marketing and where they're going to be spending the majority of their time this fiscal year in helping to elevate their company, whether it's from an awareness standpoint or whether it's from prospects considering what they do, how they do it, and then ultimately hopefully deciding that their technology is the right fit for them. Video is another important aspect of this. Again, I caution it though because bandwidth does become an issue depending upon where you are, right? Your bandwidth is different than my bandwidth, but there are different technologies out there through like different webinar applications like GoToWebinar. I was on one with Zoom yesterday, On24, WebEx. There's a ton of platforms out there that you can leverage and actually go ahead and present a video on behalf of the presentation that you're trying to execute for that day, right? I'm not going to bring the video up right now because my bandwidth was slowing it down, but I think you get the point. That's just another way to help elevate your brand, elevate your value prop and the meaningful message you're trying to create based on the audience that you're serving to. Live chats, that's another really quick, easy way. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to send a quick chat out to you as the audience and just say, thank you for attending, right? But this is another way to engage in your audience. In some of the applications, you can actually send personal one-to-one chat messages to individuals that are within the audience, right? So if you're an organizer or you're a panelist in this case, you actually have that ability as other people are speaking to have conversations with those folks, right? Hey, Johnny, thanks for attending again. I noticed that you were on our last webinar, right? So you can actually, this is more for sales. So sales folks, you can actually have conversations during the webinar to help, again, create that warm lead and hopefully create an effective meeting that you're trying to generate from them. And hopefully that leads to an opportunity for you as well. Survey, that's another big one, right? So to me, that's the biggest win-win from where I sit when I'm serving my clients is really collecting the right information at the right time with what you're trying to better understand from them. So really, ideally, it's problem solution, right? So what I always look at it from is the aspect of what pain is my prospect having right now? How can I extract that pain, right? And what you want to do is you want to craft that in a question and answer that gives them the ability to provide you with that information, right? So again, that then allows you after the fact to have very specific, tactful conversations based on the survey feedback that you've collected from them. Okay, so what is the 4 pillars email process? This is tried and true. I've used this now for, geez almighty, 7 or 8 years now, and it's an email cadence, and it works really effectively. So again, when you're planning this thing out, right, worst case scenario, you're planning a month out, what you'll want to do is you'll want to prime the pump 4 weeks out from the webinar, your subject line should say save the date with a quick little blurb about the subject line, what the topic is, why they should attend, right? Why should they open that email and register based on what you've sent them as it relates to an email. 3 weeks out, right? Your subject line should have some component of registration is now open. 2 weeks out, hey, create a sense of urgency. Space is filling up. Don't miss out on this exciting, eventful webinar. You don't want to miss it, right? Please sign up now. And then 1 week out is your last chance, right? So again, it's a behavioral tactic, right? What you want to do is you want them to open the email, but you actually want them to take action, right? And these are 4 ways that are going to give you the ability to do that. Now, there's a quick little tip at the bottom of this slide, and that is how to effectively maximize your subject line. This is another thing that's been tried and true for me, that's allowed success for my clients, as well as how to create the right subject line that's going to effectively want people to open your email and effectively want people to actually take action in signing up for your webinar. So again, this link will be sent to you after the fact, but again, I highly recommend moving forward that you're using that tool to create a compelling subject line to get those folks to open the email, because we know there's a lot of noise in emails. We know that folks probably have 4 or 5 different email accounts. What are you going to do to stand out from the competition? What are you going to do to stand out from other things that they're working on that wants them to open that email and sign up for your webinar, because it is just that important. All right, I'm going to ask you another poll question. This is a very broad, general question, but it's relevant in today's discussion. What is your primary goal for this year? So let me go ahead and execute that poll. All right, I'm going to give you a moment or two to go ahead and enter in your answers, but basically, here are your options. Do you want to generate more qualified leads this year? Do you want to hit or exceed your quota if you're on the sales side or a sales manager or company owner? Do you want faster response times on qualified leads? Are you looking to clean up your CRM database for better reporting this fiscal year? And then lastly, are you looking to do better interdepartmental communication as it relates to the company that you're working for? So go ahead and enter in those answers, and then I will show you the results of this poll question. Again, folks, it's all about attracting and absorbing and collecting. That's the right word I was looking for. Collecting the right information. Again, you're going to see all this stuff on the back end, right? So when you build a report, like I will be able to do with GoToWebinar, you'll be able to see who selected what answers. You'll be able to see exactly who filled out the survey, right? So again, that's all meaningful. Now, look, at the end of the day, me as a marketer, and I also have a ton of sales experience, when I put my marketing hat on for a moment, is it's only as good as when the salespeople use it, right? So if I'm collecting all this information on behalf of passing the baton, if you will, to the sales team, it's incumbent upon them to leverage that information in a meaningful manner to have meaningful discussions with the attendees that have executed the live poll questions as well as the survey feedback. So it's only as useful as the people that need to leverage it to have meaningful conversations with the audience after the fact. Okay. I'm off my high horse. Let me go ahead and close this poll question, and let's go ahead and launch the result. So again, so it's all about generating more qualified leads, right? And again, this is one of the ways that I'm showing you as we speak on how to do that this fiscal year. So awesome. Thank you very much for taking the time again, but I'm keeping you captivated, right? That's another way to keep you focused on my webinar, is to keep you engaged as much as humanly possible. And live polls is one of the tried and true ways to do that. If there's anything I want you to take away from today's webinar, it's this slide right here. So hopefully you're paying attention and you're not looking at your phone and you're not worried about some other projects you're working on right now. This is the money slide. So if there's anything I want you to take away from today's webinar, it's this one right here. Here's the key. This separates those that are average and good to top performers out there that really truly know how to effectively leverage a webinar for their company and for their business. It's the post-webinar follow-up. It's being able to quickly export and extract the information from your attendee report, quickly locate your hot leads. And what I mean by that is it's marketers' job to define where are the hot leads on that spreadsheet, right? In other words, who interacted with you the most? Who executed your live polls? Who participated in any online discussions, maybe chats? Who did your survey feedback, right? And it's between marketing and sales, you have to determine where those hot leads are, but here's the key. This is the keys to the kingdom to help you make more money this year. Those hot leads, must be called within 2 hours after the webinar has ended. Let me say that again. To be a top performer, sales, you must call those hot leads within 2 hours after the webinar has ended. Why? Speed matters. You're 21 times more likely to qualify that lead as an SQL, which is a sales qualified lead, and to hopefully generate an opportunity with a faster response time. And the source here is Chili Piper. So the old way is if I have 10 hot leads and I wait a day or two, which is normal, it's common in most industries and most companies I've worked for. And again, there is some internal issues that unfortunately slow that response time. But if you do it the old way, as an average or maybe a good company, 10 hot leads might turn into 2 SQLs, right? 2 sales qualified leads. If you do it this way, and you have a plan in place, and your sales team, you are mandating them, you must call these leads within 2 hours. Those 10 hot leads now turn into double, triple, quadruple the amount of SQLs. At the end of the day, that's what you're looking for, ladies and gentlemen, is you're trying to drive more qualified leads that turn into meetings, that turn into opportunities, that turn into close one revenue. So if there's one thing you take away from today's webinar, it's this slide right here. This is what's going to make you more money this fiscal year. So what are the key takeaways? How am I doing on time? Oh, I'm actually pretty good. Couple of things. I hate this slide, okay? Let me explain why. Why do I hate this slide? Because there's too many damn words on it. And I worked on it yesterday to try and condense it down, but I had a hard time doing it. I think what I'll do next time is probably separate it into 2 slides. Why am I saying that? Because more than likely you're not listening to what I'm saying. You're trying to read what's on the slide, right? That's another thing that I highly recommend is when you're creating slides, you want them to listen and hear what you're saying, whether it's visually and from an visual audio standpoint, right? As opposed to being distracted by, oh, Chris is saying all these key takeaways. Well, you're trying to read it really quick before I change the slide, right? Less is more, ladies and gentlemen. That's another thing that I want you to take away from today's session. Less is more. You want them to gravitate towards you, your compelling stories, compelling events, compelling speakers that you have on your webinars, right? That's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. So real quick, what are the key takeaways from today's session? Use the 4 email pillar process, making sure you're incorporating live webcam so that I'm as best I can visually engaged with you. So I'm providing that human element to the best of our abilities in this virtual world. You're incorporating live polls. You have meaningful handouts for them to review after the fact. You're asking them to take a survey so you better understand what's their feedback from this content. Was it good? Was it bad? Did I have an ugly mole on my face? Was I a bad speaker? Was I talking too fast? Was it not compelling enough, right? All that information is important to collect, not only from a sales standpoint, but more from a marketing standpoint, so that you can strive to do better and be better on future webinars down the road. The other thing is, as a marketer, making sure that you're sharing the recording and presentation within 24 hours after the webinar ends. Again, response rates, time is of the essence, ladies and gentlemen. The quicker that you respond, the quicker that you're able to have those follow-ups, the better your odds are of creating really unique and compelling opportunities for your business. Notating the hot leads, right? The other thing is, if you've got the bandwidth, is marketing, creating a sales script for your staff, right? Use the information you receive from today's webinar. So I'm just going to give you one quick example. Questions that they asked during the webinar, right? All that information is collected. The poll questions they answered, all that information is collected. The survey feedback, all that information is collected on the back end, right? So one of the scripts I've helped clients create in the past is, for example, hey John, the purpose of my call, and this is a follow-up call from, pretend I'm the sales guy, is to get your immediate feedback and comments from today's webinar. I noticed that one area of concern for you is generating more leads. Can you expound upon that, right? Then you throw the ball in their court and you generate a conversation from that. If you can do that within 2 hours sorry, I'm getting too excited here. If you can do that within 2 hours of the webinar ending, I can assure you your opportunity rate is going to escalate quickly, your qualified rates are going to escalate quickly, and yes, your opportunity to close one conversion rates are also going to increase dramatically. So again, these are just some really good, effective ways to help you better your odds and opportunities by using a platform like live webinars. So what is my offer to you? I'm offering to you today a lead gen mini power boost program where I would help you create one live webinar. I'll help you promote it. I'll execute 15 social posts on your behalf. I'll execute that 4 email pillar process. I'll execute 1 video for you. I'll slice and dice it with the recording of today's webinar. I'll coach and mentor one marketer or sales rep on calling scripts, the content, extracting the right pain points for you, and making sure that you're enforcing the right webinar response time, which is within 2 hours after the webinar ends. What are your expected results? You should see a 25% increase in leads and a 50% increase in conversion rates from leads to opportunities. You'll have the ability to save 20% if the statement of work is signed by the end of this month. Next steps. This is not about me. This is not about me with next steps. It's about you. Making sure that you're effectively using this information to the best of your abilities and helping your company grow, helping your specific position grow, whether you're on the sales side, marketing side, or the owner side of the business, so that it propels you to greater heights this fiscal year. So please do take my survey after we end today's webinar. But here's the biggest thing is, what one thing, I'm just asking for one, what one thing will you incorporate on your next live webinar? So I want you to think about that. I'm also hosting a next live webinar session on January the 28th. And this one, I'm going to show you how to effectively go from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead. I know from experience being on the marketing side of the business and the sales side of the business. Sales like to bicker at marketing, marketing likes to bicker at sales, right? I'm going to effectively show you how to transition those marketing qualified leads into realistic sales qualified leads that are going to turn into meetings, opportunities, and close one business for your organization and for your quota attainment. I promised you I would do this within 30 minutes, and I have accomplished my mission. The other thing that I haven't really talked a lot about, because again, I'm just giving you high-level nuggets. I could talk about this stuff for hours. The other important piece of this is whether you do it at the beginning, which more than likely you wouldn't, but you always want to make sure to save a few minutes of time to do live Q&A, whether you allow them to speak their question live, or whether you ask them to enter it in the questions pane of the GoToWebinar application. I do recommend that you give your audience at least 5 minutes or so to ask as many questions as they can, because again, why am I saying that? It's also giving the ability to collect the right information at the right time. How are you going to know what questions they ask if you're not able to collect it and you don't give them enough time to ask the question, right? So again, all that information you'll absorb on a spreadsheet, which will then give you the ability to either answer it live right now, or part of your follow-up process within 2 hours is, hey, Johnny, I saw that you had asked a question that we didn't have time to get to. I want to answer that question for you right now. So again, that's another true indicator in making sure that you are being customer-centric, buyer-centric, and giving them the right information at a better rapid rate response time. But really do appreciate your time today. I hope you found this effective. I hope you found this invigorating. I hope that this allows you to have the best day of your life that's humanly possible today. And hopefully you found this content to be really meaningful, beneficial, and educational at the same time. We'll love the opportunity to entertain a discussion with you and your business down the road. And look for me on my next webinar, where I'm going to show you how to effectively go from an MQL to an SQL on January the 28th. Until then, have a safe, relaxing, safe day, and we'll chat soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.